Hey everybody, so today we are talking about our hair. How we look on the outside can make us feel a lot better on the inside, especially when we're sick. And so today we're talking about how to style your hair without giving yourself a headache and a migraine. A lot of people who have headaches and migraines have a sensitivity to the way that they wear their hair, and a lot of the time I've noticed that people don't grow their hair out, or they keep their hair short because of the weight and because of the certain hairstyles that they have done have caused a headache. So what I'm going to give you are ways to do your hair and not give yourself a headache or reduce the possibility of a headache. Obviously, it doesn't work for everyone. So the first thing is to do looser hairstyles. So a lot of updos, they'll tell you to take your hair and they tell you to pull it back and put it into elastic, and then they have you doing they tell you to pull it tight, and then they have you clipping and they have you putting in bobby pins. What you should do is watch a few different videos and see if there's a way to manage that hairstyle without using that initial elastic. Those initial elastics, when you do them, they can pull your hair really tight. Now, the downside is for some people, then you have so much weight just in your updo that it pulls. You'll have to play around with it. Another good option is to not do it super tight. Unfortunately, if you do get headaches and migraines from your hair, the odds are that super slick back and super tight, neat hairstyles aren't going to work for you. That doesn't mean you can't pull your hair back. It just means that you should do it a little looser, and you shouldn't be combing it so hard or brushing it so hard and tying it so hard that it's pressed super flat against your head. So the second thing I'm going to talk about is hair elastics. So you can see, I'm sure you know, and if you don't, for this, a lot of people think that it's common sense, but some people just have never really had it explained to them. They tried one thing and that was it, and we get comfortable. We like our hair the way we like it. So you can see different size hair ties, and they all have different elasticities. So this one's actually really stretched out. Some of these are made from more elastic that's been wrapped around with thread or fabric, and some are made primarily of fabric. And so you can get ones that have the metal piece and some that don't. The important thing is that you try different ones and see which ones are going to work on your head, specifically the size. If you have a super thick hair or you have super thin hair, the type of elastic that you can use can change. The other thing that a lot of people, it happens is your elastic fits and it works when it goes around twice, but when you got them, they're a little too small, so you get 1.5, so it's too tight, or it starts getting too loose, and then you get rid of them. Obviously, it's something that you're going to have to try out a few different times, and you can shop around. I know that there are specific brands of hair elastics that will fit around. As you can see, I've got a lot of hair that'll fit around the body of the hair, but I have different ones for when I braid my hair and I'm putting it at the bottom. So that's, again, something that you need to pay attention to. And it might sound weird, but feel free to ask your friends, oh, those are interesting hair elastics. I've never tried that. Would you mind if I took a new one or used one, depends on how close you are, and just tried it out? It's kind of awkward and weird, but depending on how close you are, it's something that you can do. I mean, you won't ask a stranger. And in some cases, I mean, you could offer to give them the 30 cents that the hair elastic probably cost. So the second thing is when you go out and you have your hair all done up and it's all done nice and you've put it up, for example, you're at a wedding, you're at a prom, a lot of the time, halfway through the night, you want to pull your hair out because of the bobby pins, and they're super painful. So bobby pins, usually we're talking about these little, I'm going to see if you can see, yeah, these little things there, which, by the way, you should put them so that that jagged part is down. It'll help them grip better and they won't slide and they won't pull as much. Scrunchies, and hair clips. I love these. I always have one in my purse. Sometimes you really just need to take those out. A lot of the times taking the bobby pins out will just you know, if you have an updo, it'll just give you a mess of curls. And sometimes you need to take the whole thing out and just put it in something looser. Don't be afraid to tell the hairstylist or whoever's doing your hair that you do get headaches, and to try and not pull it too tight, and to try and make it so that you won't get a headache later. So the next one is to talk about using the proper supportive hair pieces. People don't really talk about support for hair. We talk about it for bras, and we talk about it back support and all of that. Like I said earlier, finding the right hair elastics and even the right hair clips. If you guys can see, I will show you these clips, which are very, very trendy, and everyone has been using them since the 90s. A lot of the time, they're not as supportive. If you look at this one that I have here, that's the back, and so it's combed. It has 3 spikes on it, as opposed to the typical ones that only have 1 or 2. And for someone like me who has a lot of hair, when I use one of these, it holds my hair better. And what happens is, it not only does it hold longer and better and you don't have to fix it, but it's not pulling. If you use a clip that's not as supportive, it can hook hairs the wrong way, and it's sliding and it's pulling, or your hair is being pulled down because it's so heavy. If you do have heavy hair, a really good thing, I have very bottom heavy hair, is layers. And when we say layers, we don't just mean, you know, 1 layer's here and 1 layer's there. You can get long layers, which is where at the bottom, that's where they do the layering. So your hair looks pretty much the same length, but at the bottom, there's, you know, about 1 inch where hair is different lengths. You can get it thinned, and there's something called texturizing. Sometimes people call thinning and texturizing the same thing. It's all very different. And one of those things is that they will use often a pair of scissors where one side is a blade and one side is like a comb, and they just cut at different angles in your hair, and it takes some of the weight out. It takes some of the excess hair out, but then it doesn't necessarily look choppy and choppy and layered. Although mine is layered, that's why it looks like that in the front. And so another important thing is finding the right brush. A lot of the time, different brushes will pull on your hair. So depending on your hair type, a really good thing is if you can find a beauty supply outlet or your hairdresser, and you ask them, if you trust your hairdresser, and you say, you know, what's a good hairbrush for my hair that's not going to pull. Another important tip is when you're brushing your hair, if you have thick hair or you have long hair, even if you have shorter hair and you're detangling it, you always brush from the bottom, and then you work your way up until the point where you can actually run the brush all the way through without it getting caught. If you just start right at the top and it's got a lot of tangles in it, it's going to hurt, it's going to pull, and it's again going to make you uncomfortable with having longer hair or thicker hair, and you're just going to hate it. So another thing is finding the right height for where you're going to put your hair up. So for some people, I hope you guys can see this, it's easier to put their hair up high, a ponytail, and some people it's easier to put their ponytails low. And in some cases, you want to put it in the middle of your head. So that's a very messy demonstration. But for different people, depending on your head shape and depending on the weight of your hair, some people really do like to wear their hair up very high, very up, over the bump. And for other people, they like to wear it right there at the back. I'm like a few inches off my neck or very, very high. There's a weird space in the middle where I can't wear my hair and it hurts. So that's something to think about, is if you're always getting a headache when you put your hair up, try putting your hair in a different spot at a different height. Try a different clip. Try brushing it a different way using a soft bristle versus a hard brush or a comb. And try doing your hair when it's wet and when it's dry. It can very much vary as to how your hair will manage. For me, I can put my hair up really high if I do it when it's wet and I comb it gently, as opposed to when it's dry. But for some people, it's easier to put it up when it's dry. So another really important thing, I keep looking at my notes over here because there's so much to remember about hair, is scalp massages. And that's something that I have found is very, very good, especially if you do put your hair up when it's wet, like I do, and you take it down and it's kinked and it pulls and it kind of hurts. Or any other time where your hair has been up or it's been in the wrong spot, or even just it's been clipped or it's been down and you want to put it up, is massaging your head and shaking your hair up. And I don't mean flipping your head upside down and shaking it all over, although that can help. When you do it, take your fingertips and run them in little mini circles all over your head. And what that'll do is that'll take, in some places where hair has kinked up and maybe it's hooked in a different way, or it's just bent in the wrong way, it'll help loosen it. Massaging your scalp also stimulates hair growth, so that's really good if you're trying to grow your hair long. To learn more, visit our website at www.lifewithillness.com.